Who will emerge as Georgia's wide receiver one in 2023? If it's Carson Beck, which I think this, and I think that most people believe this by now, is the starting quarterback, then who is going to be his number one target? What is the answer? Who is the answer to that question? Because I think that it could be a number of guys. I don't know that there's a clear cut number one. So who's going to be their best pass catcher is going to be interesting. Here's the thing with that argument. Well, Brock Bowers is your best pass catcher. Brock Bowers is your best offensive weapon and offensive player. We're talking about one of the handful of best players in the whole entire sport in the country in college football. So he is your number one option, right? That doesn't change. Bowers is the guy that you go like he's your third round guy. You saw it, in crunch time moments down the stretch in certain games. That's the guy they want to get the ball to. Rightfully so, right? That's not crazy. Ryan Curley from Dawg Post here. Talking about the wide receiver room and who's going to emerge as maybe the leader in 2023. Undisclosed location, on vacation, getting this video done. I hope the audio and video quality is good enough for you. The content is what matters the most. Make sure you're checking out the links down below in the description. Links to both Double Dogs and Dogstruction, our commemorative 80-ish page books from the last two national championship runs. Red Zone, DoorDash, all that should be in the description down below. And if you're not subscribing to this channel, make sure you're subscribing to that. So what does Georgia gain and lose? They lose Adonai Mitchell, a guy that didn't play a ton in the red and black, but man, did he have moments and just production, right? I don't know his exact numbers. He had like somewhere in the 300 to 400 receiving yards range his freshman year, but he has that touchdown off the trick play in the Orange Bowl, so he makes a play in the playoff. And then he has one of the biggest plays in Georgia football history when he catches that touchdown from Stetson Bennett. I believe it was a 45-yard ball against Alabama in the national championship in 2021. Well, he's gone. And, in 2022, he barely plays, right? He plays that first game. He plays a little bit after that. He has the touchdown against Oregon. And then he doesn't really play. And then he's available for the playoffs. And he gets a touchdown in the Peach Bowl, right, to put them in the lead. The game-leading touchdown. Same thing he did in the national championships against Alabama. Look at where A.D. Mitchell is when you need him. So that hurts for them. He was probably Stetson Bennett's go-to, honestly. He just wasn't on the field that much with him. So I think he was Stetson Bennett's go-to, and that hurts. Now, who's going to be Carson Beck's go-to? Listen, I think that Dominic Lovett is maybe an obvious answer, but he's a name that needs to be in the conversation for this. We saw it a little bit at G-Day, but I think Dominic Lovett is a guy that they're going to use in a variety of ways. I think this is a guy that they're going to work out of the slot. They're going to work out tight. They're going to work maybe a little bit out of the backfield. I think he's a guy you can work wide. He's going to be kind of a weapon for them on offense, and he's someone who's been productive in the SEC. This is a guy who's gotten 846 yards and 7 touchdowns last year, right? I think he was a top 10 receiver in the SEC, and now he's on the Georgia Bulldogs. And I think he's quick. I think that everything that we heard in the spring was that he was doing well, better than his counterpart, who was another transfer SEC wide receiver in Ra Thomas, another guy that was productive. I think he had over 600 yards last year. A little bit bigger of a body. Dominic Lovett is, slender. I don't think Ra is going to be one of their just absolute top guys, but I think he's going to be a guy that could be important for them. Returners, people who are on the list who are returning from last year, I think Marcus Rosemy-Jacksaint, obviously the arrest happened recently. We'll see, if there's any more public discipline involving that. But he's a guy who I think is going to have just a solid season. I think Arian Smith certainly has chemistry with Carson Beck. I think Arian Smith will have a big year. He's going to be their downfield threat. And I think Lad McConkey is just a guy that has been in their system, who has produced, who has shown that he's versatile. He had the first touchdown of the season last year against Oregon. He's had a lot of huge touchdowns. He's a guy that they've trusted even when he plays poorly, right? The Kent State game, really sticks out just in history. It's like, how did one player have such a bad game? And Lab McConkey had a really bad game against Kent State, and he's a guy who fought through that, right? And made a lot of important plays for the Georgia Bulldogs, not just in 2021, but not just in 2022, but in 2021 as well. So Lab McConkey, a guy that he's gonna catch passes. So to me, the absolute sleeper, all right. To me, the answer is Dominic Lovett. I think he's just gonna emerge as their top weapon as a receiver, and I think what you're gonna see happen is there's not gonna be a guy that separates himself, right, by having this 1,000, 1,200 yard season. And maybe there's not even a guy. I think Bowers will have another 9-ish, maybe at that. I think Bowers can really get to 1,000 yards this year, just because I think that they might be a little bit more reliant on him. But I don't think there's a wide receiver that necessarily separates themselves statistically. And I think that Dominic Lovett maybe just will have the most as far as a gadget play. He and Lam McConkey are going to be similar, and I think that Dominic Lovett is just maybe a little bit more of an impressive athlete, and they might be able to use him in a little bit more variety of ways. I think something, and don't tell me it's just because they're both wearing number 6, but I think Dominic Lovett may see some action coming out of the backfield as a receiver. You could see an inkling of it at G-Day that this is something that they can maybe do. And it's important to note that Kenny McIntosh had over 500 receiving yards last year and 800 in his career at Georgia. The most prolific receiving running back in Georgia history, honestly. If you go back and look through it, that he probably is the answer to that question. So I think it could be Lovett. But my absolute sleeper, who I failed to mention at this point, is Dylan Bell. I think Dylan Bell and Carson Beck have a little bit of chemistry. I think he's a guy that's going to be on Georgia for 3 or 4 years and have a productive career as, kind of a – I just think he's going to turn into a damn good dog type of player. I think that's the kind of guy that Dylan Bell can become, and I think that he's one of Carson Beck's guys. But my answer, probably Dominic Lovett. Look out for a big year from Arian Smith. I think they're going to go downfield in his direction more often this season. Thank you for watching.